So, how often do you check out Instagram stories? You know, those little stories that pop up at the top of your Instagram account. So, as a digital marketing expert, I really think that Instagram stories are a brilliant addition to Instagram and other platforms that I see introducing this new feature. Instagram stories are a limited time form of social media. So, short form videos like this will only be available for 24 hours. And while that might seem like a downside, it's actually a huge plus because what I've seen is that people really rush to watch the stories while they're available. So that can really boost the number of eyes that are on your posts. As videos tend to, well, have video in them, many small business owners really assume that they would just be too much work to create. But the reality is that making an Instagram story can be really, really easy. The problem, of course, is scale, right? So what if you need to create a ton of them? Say like a year's worth. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Digital Marketing Made Simple. I'm your host, Jennie Lyon, and today I thought I would chat about how to create and schedule a year's worth of Instagram stories in one morning. You heard me right. So here's the thing. If you go into that apparently monumental task with the right mindset, you really can do it in a single morning. And I'm really excited to share with you how. So my first secret is to use templates. It's really a secret of all social media marketing, creating a unique piece of content every single day for every single post that you put up. It can be a massive amount of work. And this is why the professionals use templates, right? To help them generate the vast amounts of content that they put out on a regular basis. And by creating story templates for your blog posts, videos, podcasts, and other weekly pieces of content, you can really simply update those templates and schedule them. So this strategy will save you a massive amount of time. And with just a few tweaks, you can quickly change a template into a new piece of unique content. So my advice would be to sit down one morning and create several sets of story templates in Canva, each one of them for a different type of content. Then all you need to do when you sit down to do your monthly social media scheduling is pop in the newly written copy, schedule the post, and bam, you're done. And creating these templates, they definitely will take an entire morning, but once you have them, and you can use them over and over again. And believe me, it's much easier to sit down at the beginning of the month and update the templates and schedule the stories than it is to try to do stories throughout your week. You really can start to plan out a variety of pre-planned images and captions. And by doing this, it really saves a massive amount of time. And you won't be working from scratch, every time that you want to create a new story. You're just going to swap in and out images and content, and then you'll have a new story set to share every single day if you want. So if you're ever at a loss of what to post, well, here's one of my favorite cheats for coming up with social media topics. I have a really great free resource on my website. It's a holiday hashtag yearly calendar, and you can grab it at jennylyon.com/hashtag calendar. Inside, you'll find hashtags on a variety of holidays throughout the year. Some of them are well known, like Halloween, and some of them are a little bit more obscure, maybe like National Shark Awareness Day. But while you're planning your year's schedule of Instagram stories, you can sprinkle these holidays in to give you some excellent content. And you can reuse them year after year. So that pushes us into reruns, right? So I'm a huge, huge, huge fan of recycling your content. Whether you revisit an old blog and transform it into something new or release an older paid product as a free opt-in, reusing your older content is a fantastic way to get the maximum value out of it. And the same can be said for Instagram stories. If you're planning a year's worth of stories, you will likely be able to reuse some of them without feeling like you've been there, done that, right? So creating stories about your products and your services that you can use again and again, this also saves a ton of time and effort. So mind you, I wouldn't repeat stories, over and over and over again, the same ones day after day, week after week, month after month, but instead I would spread them out throughout the year. And if you're worried about reusing stories, you can always make some small tweaks and changes to keep them fresh. But with Instagram stories, as with all marketing and definitely social media marketing, you really do want to consider your goals. So whenever I start to plan a marketing strategy with a client, one of the first questions that I ask are, what are your goals, right? However, many clients are less sure about their goals, only knowing that they want to build their social media following, but they're not quite sure how to get there. So whatever your goals are, they're going to directly impact the type of stories that you're going to create. So for example, if you do want to boost sales, then you'll want your stories to drive people to your landing pages, right? And if you're trying to build up a following, then brand awareness is really going to be your focus. So you might want to try some stories that connect with your followers personally, or maybe even create some social media ads. But I really believe that you should be aiming for a lot of different types of goals, right? Because I think a lot of times our goals help us achieve other goals, right? So when you have a limited budget to spend, knowing exactly where you want to put your money, it's going to increase your Instagram stories effectiveness. And then, of course, you need to ask yourself, how often do I want to post, right? So when you're sitting down to figure out your plan for Instagram stories, the very first thing that you're going to consider is the frequency that you're going to post them. If you were to post a story every single day, that would mean that you would need to plan for 365 pieces of content. If you want to scale that back a bit, maybe you just want to do 2 stories a week. That would be 104 pieces of content. Or if you're just starting out and maybe you just want to start out with a single post, then we're looking at 52 pieces of content. So obviously 52 stories, it's a considerably less amount of work than 365. So the question you really have to ask yourself is, how often do I need to post based on the size of my business and my social media budget, right? And then also looking at the current amount of followers that you have. So you really want to start where you're comfortable and then build up as your social media following grows. And of course, you want to use effective scheduling. So when it comes to social media, scheduling really is key. And a lot of times it's even more important for stories. So when you post something on social media, new posts from other people, they'll pile up right on the top over time, which means that your followers, if they want to get to your content, they're going to need to plow through a ton of social media to see your post. And, likely if they're interested, they eventually will do it. But with Instagram stories, since they only last 24 hours, your audience really needs to get their eyes on them ASAP. And you really want to post at times where the highest engagement is happening to really ensure that you're getting, the biggest bang for your buck here. And unfortunately, that time of the highest engagements, it's often, in the middle of the day when you're working, or maybe in the evening when you're spending time with your family, or, prepping for the next day. And stopping in the middle of an important task, it really kills your productivity, or it can really infringe upon your family time. So that's why pre-scheduling your stories and really all of your social media posts is such a great idea. So I'd really consider hiring a team like ours or a virtual assistant to help you, create all of these different templates and set up a scheduling, schedule so that you could use a tool like Later or Tailwind. And then you would be rest assured that your Instagram stories would be going out to when people are most likely to see them. And what's better, you wouldn't have to lift a finger. But either way, you really want to map out your monthly content. So when creating a social media strategy, it really does pay to map out what you want to post and when, right? So for example, if you're more, scattershot strategy of posting, where you kind of alternate between topics and products and kind of are seeing what will work and what wouldn't work, that's fine to begin with because it really does give you a better idea of what your audience is interested in. But let's say that you're planning for something coming up. Say you have a webinar and it's going to be happening in a month. Well, that might be a really good time for you to start doing some light promotion in your Instagram stories, right? So you can really build some excitement and you can start to ask questions from your audience to see maybe what they're interested in and really get people excited for your webinar. It doesn't need to be every single post, but you kind of want to shift the balance, right? You want to make sure that they're seeing enough about your webinar to really get them excited about it. And of course, you want to ask questions, right? So when it comes to social media, of course, engagement is key. You really want your followers to see your post and be spurred to actions, right? You either want them to like or click a link or leave a comment. And you can really increase the likelihood of this happening when you include a call to action in every single post, including your stories. So it really can have a much bigger payoff with stories because you can make them very interactive, right? So you can ask questions or you can include a poll, and chances are that that's really what's going to spur the person that's watching your stories to answer them, right? And if you have an engaging and attractive design to that story, even better. Instant engagement. So let's kind of wrap up what we learned today. So Instagram stories are basically video-based social media posts that only last for 24 hours. So making a story, it's surprisingly easy, but planning out a year's worth of them, it can feel a little bit overwhelming. So you want to start by generating story templates. This will cut down the time needed to create stories. And if you're looking for ideas to get started, start with what start with your products, your services, your landing pages, your lead pages, your, hashtag holidays. And remember that you can definitely reuse stories. You just don't want to reuse them over and over and over again. You want to spread them out over the year. And of course, determine your overall goals because this is really going to help you figure out what kind of stories you want to create. And those goals are going to directly impact how many stories you're going to post over the year. Don't break your workflow to post stories. Instead, pre-schedule them, but make sure you're scheduling them at the times of highest engagement. And of course, start out by mapping out your monthly content. You really want to base everything on your current products and services that you're focusing on right now. And ask questions or post polls in stories. They're a fantastic way to boost engagement. And while Instagram stories and stories on other platforms are becoming more and more important, they are only part of a successful social media strategy. If you really want to connect with your followers, you really do have to create posts that are going to get them engaged with your content. So I do have a free Making the Most of Social Media workbook. I'll leave it in the show notes for you below, but you can grab it at jennylyon.com/social media. And inside it, I break down how I approach my own social media to build up a following online. And even if you're making all of the right moves with social media, it's still going to take up a ton of your time. I mean, that's what social media is designed to do. It's a time suck. And if you're already overwhelmed with work, consider hiring our team or a virtual assistant to write, design, and create all these social media posts and stories for you. It can be a very worthwhile investment for your business. Not only will you have a ton more time, but you can also massively boost your social media engagement by utilizing stories. So if you'd like to learn more about how we can help with social media, please reach out. Always happy to talk. You can schedule a call at jennylyon.com/chat, and we can really create a social media strategy that covers all of the traditional forms of social media, along with some new innovations like Instagram Story. Right now, the sky is the limit. Well, I hope you found these tips on how to create and schedule a year's worth of Instagram stories in one morning helpful. Again, if you have any questions at all, please reach out. And I'd love to hear from you either way. So follow me on Instagram. Let's check out each other's stories. If you could tag me, I would love to see what you're working on and give you a little shout out. I will see you next time on another episode of Digital Marketing Made Simple.